Enjoy a taste of spirit with delicious dishes and mediumship. Welcome to the Deb and Chris Show. Welcome, everybody, to actually, this is episode 2 of A Taste of Spirit since it's been renamed. Who knows how many other renamings it might go through as we continue. But this is actually our 4th filming episode. So this is fun. We hope you're having fun. I am really excited about today. Today has been, I'm going to say, a little bit of a wild show for me this morning.
And for the first time, I'm nervous about today because Debbie has told me everything and absolutely nothing at the same time. So she has taunted me for 2 days about, oh, I couldn't get this or I couldn't get that. And I have no idea what she's talking about or how things are difficult or who
exaggerating.
She has shared with.
She's exaggerating.
Because she knows that the fact that I know other people know and I don't know really makes me crazy. So I don't know how this is
now
you're
work. The one exaggerating because all I asked you was, what kind of foods don't you know how to cook?
Right.
And then she started to get a little freaked out. So I called our father to kind of interview him a bit about what he knows about my sister. So all she knows is that I talked to Dad.
I said, please don't let it be liver and onions. That's all.
I promise no liver and onions. So, okay, Christine, now today's topic, but today's spirit is actually very special.
Okay.
So here's the unveiling and I'll share once you start going through it.
Okay. Here we go. Oh, hold on. Oh, basil.
Did I not wrap properly?
Oh, did you rip this off out of my garden? This is out of my garden.
Okay. The store didn't have basil.
Oh, well, we're going to get this.
Wait, you recognize your basil leaves?
I can tell. I can absolutely tell. Okay, well, basil, I love basil. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm loving everything that's in here. So we've got our vine tomatoes, lemons. Every time Debbie comes, I ask her, please make sure you bring more lemons or limes because I'm always running out.
Now, people are going to notice, I'm just going to tell you this right now. People are going to notice that the stickers are still on some of these things, which means that I didn't wash them. So if you don't wash them, we're going to get roasted.
Right. I thought you meant that you actually bought them, that you didn't get them from somewhere else.
No.
Okay. Oh, and we have some natural salt spring salt. Have you ever used this before?
I have. And I
love it.
As we do this, that I should get a lot of local things.
Yeah.
So Salt Spring Salt, sea salt, they have a whole line of products. And they're really, really good. Naturally, locally sourced.
Love it. And we have a red onion. Oh, garlic infused olive oil. Okay. So just before we started this today, we were talking about this place called All of Your Senses here locally. And I always get some of my olive oil from there and how much I love it. So this one is definitely staying with me after.
Perfect. As do all things. We talked about this in another episode, you stealing everything I have. As if I'm not going to leave the food behind.
Okay. I saw something in here that is distracting me and you know exactly what it is, don't you? Okay.
Hey, we'll go with the butter
with
this basket. Yeah.
Okay. We have kale flakes. Okay. So that looks interesting. I've never actually heard of kale flakes.
No,
I'm not a kale eater, so I don't know.
This is an option for the basket.
Okay.
I saw it as I was getting the rest of the ingredients and I thought, now this is really interesting. So you decide whether you're going to use it or not.
Okay. Can I decide whether I'm going to use or not use
everything else in the basket? Everything else in the basket. Now, this was so spirit driven. I can't wait to tell you the story. So keep going.
Okay. Pine nuts. Okay, perfect. So I know that I'm already going to be making a pesto. That much I know.
Okay.
Sardines. It's sardines. Oh no.
Okay.
Oh, Debbie.
I have never eaten a sardine in my life. And I knew that this was going to disturb you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Today's basket is about spirit guides.
Okay.
Yeah. You see the look on her face? she's already disturbed by the sardines and spirit guides is throwing her. Okay. I promise you, it's not going to be as woo as you think.
Is this from our brother? No, it's not our brother.
No, it's not our. No, it's not our brother. That would be. Our brother is alive, Christy. So
Okay.
Okay, here's the thing.
Yes.
My spirit guide, Stephen, and I'm going to explain that to you. Stephen was a gentleman who lived, he died in 1979. So I'm going to share more information with you as you go. But Stephen insisted on sardines, and I'll tell you why to that too. So at the end of whatever you make from this, we're both going to have to eat it.
One of us will for sure.
I can make you
can't let
whatever
Spirit
I
down.
make.
Remember those days when you used to make me eat certain things?
Yes.
I might do that same thing. And then we have English breakfast tea. So we'll make a nice cup of tea or something with the tea. We'll find out. Some garlic. And then, of course, the bread. Okay.
Sourdough
bread. Okay.
So let me just tell you, there's a big chunk of cod in the fridge that Christine can't cook. My spirit guide, Stephen, showed that we needed to use sardines. And as I sat in meditation in my space, I saw the sardines come in front of me and I was like, oh no, surely there's got to be something else. And then Stephen came and I was like, what is going on? So Stephen is a gentleman from England who died when he was 27 years old, and he died in 1979. And I'll tell you, as you're putting this together, how I came to know Stephen. But Stephen is from England. So at some point he immigrated here, or I believe he might have been in the Navy potentially. So he was here on Vancouver Island, and he died in a car crash while he was here. And so anyway, Stephen was showing me the sardines, and I went to find actual, not live, would you go fresh sardines? I thought, okay, we live in a plentiful fish island area. Turns out you can't buy fresh sardines on Vancouver Island or really in BC at all, unless they were imported, which they're not. Supposedly, I heard from the fish market guy today. So I literally drove to our fish market in Victoria, and he said, no, every like 80 years or so, sardines will come into this area, but typically we don't have them. So I thought, okay, well, Stephen, then I can't do the sardines thing. Whew. Yeah, and I bought cod, and I thought, okay.
You should have just stopped there.
I know, I should have. But the thing is, this is a spirit-driven show, Christine. And so we are going to make a cup of tea. Yeah. And we're going to drink tea in honor of Stephen as we do this. Okay. But I bought the cod thinking, okay, this is great. We can do some other English recipe with this cod. I get back in the car and he's like, Debra, it must be sardines. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I went and found sardines. But here's the really cool thing. When I went into the store to find sardines, I don't know if you can see this on the screen, they say Gabriel. And so Gabriel is actually an archangel. And so many people have Archangel Gabriel as a spirit guide to them. So I thought, well, this is all lining up nicely. I'm looking forward to, Christine, what you're going to do with the sardines. And yes, we both will be trying it at the end. So I'm going to make us a cup of tea, okay?
Okay.
While you figure out what to do.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Christine, here's your cup of English tea.
Thank you. Okay,
so we have to be supportive. Here's to Stephen.
Cheers, Stephen.
Okay.
Stephen, you have me. I'm still struggling a little bit. I'm either going to make a dip or I'm going to make a crostini. So
okay,
I'm going to just start
being inspired and let visions come to you like I do, right? So I have visions come. You look at how beautifully you've decorated your home, right? You've done interior design before. You love pictures of food. So let your visions come to you.
Right. But I specifically would never have had sardines in my home before.
And like I said, I've never tasted a sardine. So here's the thing.
All right.
So Stephen, you know now why he presented sardines. I think he probably ate them as a kid.
Oh.
So he must
start roasting the pine nuts. Sorry.
27 years old, he died.
Okay.
And so here's how I met Stephen. You know that I didn't experience mediumship as a kid. Like I wasn't seeing spirits or ghosts when I was a kid. I was 36 years old, suddenly out of the blue, I start hearing a man and having visions flashing in my face. And it went into hyperdrive, and we all thought it was really weird, right, Christine?
Yes.
Okay. And it was really weird. So
we didn't actually, at one point, we even talked about, was it remnants from years past?
Yeah, from addiction type things, for sure. But that was a long time in the past, like what it had been
many years, like
18 years. Yeah. So for sure. And I think a lot of people question that. Do you know what I mean? What is a mental health issue or psychosis or something like that? And quite frankly, when mediumship started, it felt like I was losing my mind, except for the fact that everything that Spirit shared with me turned out to be true. So I couldn't be crazy, and yet the whole thing felt very crazy, right? So, so maybe a few months into starting to see and hear spirits, which I had not in the previous 36 years prior, not that I was consciously aware of anyway. What was I saying?
That you had for the previous 16 years.
Yeah. So mediumship had just started, right? So seeing actual souls and spirits coming forward. I had nobody to talk to. So certainly nobody in our family, right? And while friends were supportive, they were not seeing and hearing spirits. So I felt very alone.
But even Norm, like your husband, he was unsure at that time too.
Yeah, I was married 18 years at that point. Why, did you have conversations with him behind my back?
No, but I can tell my wife. Exactly. Well, there would be things and comments made like, "Oh, you're jiggy."
Yeah.
Kind of, your witchy stuff, that kind of thing would come up.
Yeah.
And even though it was poked fun at.
Yeah. Still is,
I guess. Yeah.
But it's funny. That's all my family's frame of reference was jiggy or witchy stuff. And I am not a witch. Not that there's anything wrong with people being witches, but that's just not something that I am. We grew up with no religion. Yeah. We grew up with no faith or belief in anything, and so there was no foundation for it. But so a couple of months in, I thought, well, I started meditating in hopes that I might come to understand maybe some of what was going on with me. And I had never been able to meditate before because I couldn't slow my mind down enough. So one day I'm laying on the bed, I'm in meditation, and this young man named Stephen comes forward in the meditation. And I thought, okay, when I came up out of the meditation, he was still sitting there at the end of my bed. I could see him and feel him right beside me. And so I said to this young man, Stephen, I need help. Like, how come every time something happens, I've got 50 more questions? Why can't you just tell me everything? And it was that moment he leaned into me, like literally as if he was sitting on the bed beside me, leaned into me, and he said, let's put it this way. If you put too much gum in your mouth at once, you'd choke, right? Well, I'm sitting in the room by myself with this spirit man beside me, laughing so hard because he was right. Like, there was no way I would be able to ingest everything that I've come to know in the last 15 years.
Yeah.
All at one time. And also too, that was not a thought I would think. It was so directly from him. So I let it go, and I saw Stephen a few more times in the coming months. I love what you're doing. What are you doing?
It smells so good, doesn't it? It's just roasted the pine nuts. Just slightly roasted them just to let the flavor come out.
Do you know I have tried to roast pine nuts probably half dozen times in my life, and I burn them every single time.
That's because you get distracted and walk away. I think we've talked about this before. It's my biggest complaint when cooking with you. I end up having to take over her cooking because she walks away. Could you please plug that in?
It's true.
Thank you.
We should live together, but you won't live with me.
No, not yet. When we're really old. Then I'd have to live with your husband.
Be like the Golden Girl.
Exactly.
Have a sip of your English tea.
It's really good.
Yeah, it is actually.
It's actually, when I do drink tea, it is like English breakfast that I love.
So, so a couple of months
see how
goes
bossy
by.
she is? She literally says, do this, and I just did it, and I didn't even want to sip at that point.
You're the younger sister. You have to listen. Sorry. No, it's great. Can I smell that? Because this is
so good.
This is garlic infused.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, that's nice.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what happens? So then a couple of months goes by, and now I have met some people that are in spiritual circles, mediumship, psychic work. And I can't really talk a whole ton about these parts because it's in the upcoming book, which I'm super excited about. I just printed off. We've got one more edit to go through. Anyway, so fast forward, I sit with a friend one day who's also a medium herself. And I say to her, do you have to push that stuff down or?
I just did.
Oh.
Want me to push it down more? Is it bugging you?
Yeah. Okay. Is that an OCD thing?
A little bit.
Yeah. I think I have a bit of that. So I say to her, I haven't seen Stephen. I had experienced him a few times. He had come through in a few sessions that I was doing with people. He walked in behind a woman once and had his arm around another man and said, Debra, here is her grandfather. And it was true. Her grandfather was coming through. So he had aided me in a few sessions. But anyway, so I'm sitting across the table from her and I'm saying, I haven't seen or connected to Stephen in a while. I wonder if he is still around. And she says, yeah, he is. He's right there beside you. He wants you to find him. He wants you to find him. And I'm like, how am I going to find him? And she says, I don't know. But he's saying he wants you to find him. And so I'm like, okay, you have to understand, this is some random spirit, nobody connected to my family, not somebody from my childhood. I have no idea. I just know that his name is Stephen and he showed up in this meditation. So I said, well, how am I going to find him? And she says, I don't know. And she says, but he's right there. So I look to my right. I'm looking to my left now, but I look to my right because he was on my right. And in that moment, I saw this young man in a white t-shirt and blue jeans. I knew suddenly he died in 1979 at the age of 27 in a car accident.
How did you know that right away?
No, because this is the aspect of mediumship. So some things you see, some things you hear, some things you feel, and then some things you just know. It's called claircognizance. So it's where an awareness comes to you, just by the means of knowing. Wow. Anyway, so I said to her, he was in an accident. She's like, yes, she could see that too. So anyway, I left it alone because I thought it's absolutely crazy. How am I going to find this guy? You know, I only knew that his first name was Stephen. So a couple of weeks go by and it was bugging me. And so of course I did the, Google search, Stephen, car accident. I, put the year in, nothing. I mean, because we're talking about 1979, like before the internet,
Yeah.
So anyway, another few weeks go by and I thought, well, where could I find him? Well, if I just start in our city, then maybe it was in the newspaper. So I go down to the library, Victoria Library, and they have
the tomatoes, by the way.
Good for you. And they have archives. So this is good. You're doing great. I don't know what I'm
doing, actually. I'm just kind of doing bits and pieces and it'll come together.
Okay, good.
No, I'm panicking about trying the sardines.
You're cooking how I have to deal with spirit. You don't get a forward plan. You just have to.
Yeah, but you at least embrace all the spirit that comes your way. So I am not embracing the sardines.
The food. Listen, I wasn't happy about the sardines either. I've never tasted them in my life. I'm not happy that we're having to do this, but I'm honoring him. Okay. So I'm standing down at the library. Now, I don't know if you know this, but there's like archives of over 100 years of newspapers in the library downtown. But all the newspapers, like the gazettes from each area, the main papers, from the city, 100 years. But they're in these little rolls, these little film reels. Okay. Have you seen it before?
Those. Yes.
In these little film reels. And over 100 years worth of all these papers. Yeah. So there's all these filing cabinets. I can't remember if there's about 8 or 10 of them.
Okay.
And they're quite tall. So I'm feeling like a lunatic and I'm in the library downtown. I'm in the library downtown and I'm standing back from all of these cabinets. And I'm like, okay, Stephen. So I just closed my eyes and I was like, if I'm supposed to find you and you're here, you need to tell me where. So all of a sudden I see this shadow move from the side of me and there he moves across to a cabinet on the left and he jumps up on top and he goes in here. And I'm thinking, Debra, you're nuts.
What do you mean?
So
like you saw him?
I saw him go over and then kind of like a teenager would, jumped up on this cabinet. So his legs were swinging off the end and he's going in here. And I'm like, I literally, I know it sounds like I'm nuts, but it's just so wild what happened. So anyway, so he goes in here. So I'm like, okay. So I walk over to the filing cabinet. I pull open the top drawer and it's 1979. I'm staring at 1979 out of all these cabinets. So I'm like, all right. So it's a whole huge drawer about this wide full of film reels. Okay. So I don't know how many were in there. Maybe a 100 or anyway, a ton of roll. So I said to him, okay, then where? Here. He points to a roll. So I take it out, I put it on the top of the cabinet and I go, Debra, this is not possible. Like this can't happen. Mm-hmm. So I close my eyes and I'm like, okay, just feel which one it is. Just feel which one it is.
Were people looking at you odd in the library? Like I'm just imagining all the people around there going, okay, let's just leave this lady in the corner by herself for a bit.
Back away from So I was just feeling over the cabinet and then I felt like one was it. And I pick it up and I put it on top of the cabinet and he goes, really? And I was like, okay. So I shoved the door closed and I took both of the reels to the thing. And I was so sure that the one I felt out was the one. So I think there was, if I'm right, 2 weeks worth. So in a film reel, there's 14 days, right? Mm-hmm. Worth of newspapers. Okay. So I go through the one that I felt was it, page by page by page, looking for this accident. Nothing. I put in the reel he pointed to, and it was not 3 pages in. I'm not going to say his full name, but Stephen Michael something, 27 years old, dies in a car crash on Goldstream Avenue. And wow. I just sat there with my jaw open. Wow. And I started to, there was really not a lot about him. Mm-hmm. I don't think that his family, I think he has maybe a sister here, but I just didn't do a deep dive into his life, but I did find the house that he lived in and the whole thing just became really special and really wonderful. And he's been very supportive and helpful to me, throughout my mediumship. I don't always feel him and see him. And I did not expect him to be part of this today. So when I went into the meditation, Christine, I went in and I was like, okay, what is our next episode about? This was the other day. And I closed my eyes. There were sardines in front of me. And I was like, I can't do sardines.
So you didn't have to phone like a family member or anything to ask like what his favorite meal was.
I don't have any family members of him. All I saw was sardines. I didn't even know what to do with the sardines. Okay. So yeah.
And neither do I.
And from what I've looked at, it looks like you're going in the right direction.
So you don't even you haven't even had confirmation that if like in the other times when you've talked to a family member and you're like, oh, this and that's right. And they go, yes. So we don't actually know.
Well, so we do and we don't, because here's the thing. So I told you I went to get the sardines. So I go to get the sardines. There's no sardines. I buy the cod thinking, okay, we're going to alter this and maybe I'll get her to do some English fish and chips. But I get back in the car with this expensive piece of cod that I just bought. I get back in the car and he's like, I said sardines. And so I'm like, oh my God. Okay, then I've got to go for canned sardines. So I know he had to have eaten sardines because this is.
What about the kale flake?
All this.
I don't understand how you're
all this stuff, as I was going along getting it, and I looked up a little bit of what he was showing me and I found a recipe, but I was in the grocery store getting all this and I saw these kale flakes and they looked interesting. So then I was like, well, maybe that's a fun thing, but you don't have to use this. You have to use everything else, but you don't have to use that.
Oh no, I'm putting that on yours for certain. Okay. So what I'm doing then is I'm sticking with the crostini piece. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to saute in.
What's a crostini, by the way?
Like bread that's fried. Like you just heat it with oil and then we'll serve the
Heat it. Do you mean fry
it?
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna like oil it.
See, some people
fry it on
be
either
like me,
side,
not no
and
pesto.
then layer like the pesto on it, and then I'm gonna saute the for just a minute because I'm not sure they're preserved, so you don't have to cook them. God, I'm gonna put the tomatoes and the onion and some lemon, and then I think that's gonna be pretty much it. And then just sprinkle some kale flakes on yours, and we're gonna enjoy.
So what do you think about the aspect of what happened with Stephen? And I love this, by the way, you're following right in alignment with what
I think that's just where I'm always a little bit confused in that,
or skeptical.
Not skeptical, confused. I think I'm beyond skeptical now because I've seen so many situations where you've had experiences that are very unique, and I've witnessed it. So many years ago, for sure, I was skeptical. But when you're still talking about like, they tell me to say this, or this just appears, I would never think to make that connection to like, oh, sardines just appear. Well, even today, you said to me, channel the energy, channel and or
pay attention to the visions that come.
The vision. I'm like, I don't do that in my everyday life.
Yeah,
like you're always listening and thinking. I'm driving from point A to point B.
And what is your head doing while you're driving?
I'm thinking about what I need to do when I get to point B.
Okay, so this is a super good example. Okay,
like so I very rarely am present, I think, is the problem.
Okay, that's perfect. That leads into this. So you're driving, and you're thinking.
Yeah.
And as you're thinking, are you visualizing what? Your work, or
like conversations I have to have, or conversation I have had, or what needs to happen.
So you're not actively in that at the time. Basically, what you're doing is you're fantasizing.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. The smell of this I cannot stand.
Okay, in all honesty, I have never opened a can of sardines before. Oh, that's not bad. That smells like salmon. That smells like canned salmon. Oh, my parents, they're just
my dad is laughing right now and loving.
Hey, I don't get mad at me.
Okay. I will take care of that. Thank you. That's fine.
Okay, hold on. Maybe I can just punch that. There we go.
I almost don't even want to use my good knife with this.
So as you're thinking, you're fantasizing. So you have images in your head that are not happening. Oh, okay. I've described it to people like this. When you're reading a book, okay, so say you're immersed in reading a book, and you really get immersed in reading the book so that you're seeing the scenery, right?
Yeah.
And you're imagining what the people are doing, and you're right there in the scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, where is that happening? Because your eyes are staring at words on a page.
Right.
So the place where you're experiencing the visions is an internal seeing, right? Okay. That's no different than what's happening to me. That place of internal seeing, like what happens when you're reading a book, Spirit is offering information to that space. Spirit's doing that to all of us all the time. We just don't realize that that's what's occurring. So because I know that that's what's occurring, then I'm paying attention to it more. So if you were able to pay attention more to that place within your mind that visualizes.
But how do you have time for that? Because
you don't have
I need the time to think of the stuff I need to do when I get to work.
Well, we have different lives. You don't have to do it. I'm just saying that the ability for it, the capacity for it is there for everybody. Because if you read and you internally see, that's the same place that Spirit's communicating.
Okay.
Hey, I want to tell you one more kind of close to our family spirit guide thing, because we all have spirit guides. You have spirit guides, Christine.
I do.
Yeah. Everybody has spirit guides.
Because I could use a little help right now.
We enter into this life. Well, that's like I said to you, ask your spirit guides for help. You don't have to know who they are to ask for help. It's called blind faith. And I don't mean faith in a religious way.
Right.
I just mean trusting something that you can't see, you know, and that's where you start to find out more. But everybody has spirit guides. We have spirit guides that are people that lived before, angelic forms. We won't go into all the different energies that are spirit guides, because it differs around the world and for different people. But let's just stick to maybe angels and to loved ones, or to people that have lived before, like Stephen, that maybe we don't know, right?
Okay.
So
can I just show you what I'm doing here real quick?
Mm-hmm.
So just before you go into that, so I just drizzle a little bit of oil on, and I normally rub the garlic on here. But what I realized is, as I was cutting the garlic, is, oh, this is already garlic infused.
Oh.
So I'll probably just rub a little bit more garlic on it when it comes out.
Does rubbing garlic on it really do anything?
Yeah, it gives it great flavor. Absolutely. Yeah. So
I'm excited for you, Christine, because I just gave you ingredients. I told you nothing, and I'm
excited for you to try some sardines.
I think you're going to have a harder time with it than I am, possibly.
I think so. Sorry.
No, okay. Don't. Sorry. This is important stuff. So I think Stephen's liking it.
Okay.
So we have family gatherings, right? Mm-hmm. And at a family gathering where there was a lot of family around, this is several years ago now, I was sitting with a cousin of ours, and all of us at this point had kids, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm sitting with the cousin, and we're just sitting chatting. And all of a sudden, this man walks up beside me, and he says his name is Mark. And I say to her, do you know a man in spirit named Mark? And she says, what did you say? And I said, do you know a man in spirit named Mark? Because he says that basically you know him. She's like, Debra, I don't. She says, who is he? She said, when she was pregnant with her last child, from the moment she got pregnant, this man named Mark kept coming in her dreams. All the way through her pregnancy, she kept having this man named Mark come in her dreams, to the point where she started asking people, who is Mark? I don't know who this Mark man is. So I'm like, wow. So I turned back to Mark, and Mark said he was her son's spirit guide. And I said, okay, like, this is my family. Like, you're going to have to do something here to prove it, to show it. So I had never been, they lived over on the mainland, right? We live on the island. I had never been to their home, especially when the kids were little. Mm-hmm. Mark described this child's entire bedroom. She's like, that's his bedroom.
I've never even heard this story before.
No, I know you haven't. This is, I got permission the other day to share it. So, so I described his entire bedroom. So then I said to Mark, why are you here? And he said, because he needs to stop playing soccer and he needs to go into karate. And so I said to her, Mark is saying he needs to stop playing soccer and he needs to go into karate. And she just looks at me and she says, Debra, and this is a huge soccer family, right? Yes. So the whole family played soccer. He had been asking for quite a long time to stop playing soccer and to go into karate. And they kept saying no to him. His spirit guide literally showed up, and I guess he was having maybe a hard time. So his spirit guide shows up and says, you need to take him out of soccer and put him in karate. None of this I knew. Did you know any of that?
No, I mean, I knew he was in karate.
But he was in karate, Christine,
because of the spirit
because
guide?
of this. Nobody else in the family knows this. So but they gave me, actually, she contacted him when I asked, can I share this story? She contacted him to ask if it was okay if I did. And he said, anything to help me.
He is
He's so sweet. So I'm still leaving out the names, but I have the permission to tell the story. So,
I love that.
So they took him out of soccer, put him in karate. He was over the moon. His whole demeanor changed. His self-esteem skyrocketed. He did very well in karate. Did he get a black belt?
He went very far.
He went very far along. He has since returned to soccer of his own choosing.
Yeah.
But so here you go. This is a spirit guide intervention in a young man's life.
So how do people find their spirit guide, or how do they? It's a person that has an actual name, or it's a spirit that has an actual name.
So
that everybody has. I'm so dumb.
You're not dumb. These are super, super common questions. And a lot of people in that are exploring mediumship, or they're exploring spirit in many different ways, talk about spirit guides or have heard about spirit guides. And oftentimes people will come to ask me about their own spirit guides. Can you see my spirit guides? Spirit guides is kind of a little bit of a different experience. So if somebody is asking for loved ones to come through, yes, for sure, we can have that happen. But a connection to spirit guides is a person's personal journey. So your own desire to discover your spirit guides has to be your path, because it is your relationship to the spirit guide. I can't tell you. And then, so clearly, Mark and Stephen are really wonderful demonstrations that these spirit guides exist.
Yeah.
That they're demonstrating the fact that they care about us, that they're supporting us. I mean, what Mark did for our nephew is really wonderful, you know? How are you doing?
Not well. Not well at all.
Why are you not doing well?
This is just a sauteed sardines and tomato and onion and lemon juice.
Wow.
It's almost like
it looks
like
good.
a bruschetta.
It looks
sardines. Good. What a way to butcher bruschetta. Anyway.
But it looks good. I'm scared.
Try it.
But it looks good.
Just try a little bit.
No, put it together first.
Okay.
Put it together first.
Okay.
Stephen. So spirit guides is a personal journey. So yes, could we talk about spirit guides together? Sure. But through meditation, through, like I said, blind faith, ask your spirit guides for help. Even if you don't know who your spirit guides are, ask them for help in the very practical, real world situations that you find yourself in. Just like our nephew, it was the difference between, soccer and karate. But the thing is that what Mark knew, what his spirit guide knew, was that he was personally struggling in a way that the family was not hearing.
Right.
And what an incredible intervention, knowing that this child needed that for his life.
Well, and I love that knowing that that allowed him to be uniquely him.
Yeah.
And I think he needed that sort of,
but that's the example that we get here in this storytelling is Stephen and Mark. But this is available to all of us. We all have guides and loving presence of beings around us that are here to help us literally on our earth walk. And how many people do you know right now? I'm sure that you can count them off in your head that are really struggling, that are experiencing, anxiety and depression, or they're feeling isolated and alone, or it feels like the aspect, this is Christine, you're doing honestly such a great job for a basket that you were frightened of, honestly.
I have no idea about this. Oh my gosh. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's good. Clearly, honestly, I was not thrilled about this, but he was so insistent that it was sardines. And I thought, okay, then
this will be my littlest one. That's why I decided to make the tiny one. Sorry. It's okay. We're almost done.
So explore your guides. Have some blind faith. Look for synchronicities. Look for a feeling of response. Maybe you ask your spirit guides for help because you're struggling, and you notice a half an hour later that somehow you're calmer than you were half an hour ago. Or maybe all of a sudden you meet up with a friend at a coffee shop that you weren't anticipating running into, and that led to a conversation that gave you some resolution to the problem you were having. There's all kinds of ways that our spirit guides can help us. It's really, honestly, honey, looking so good. I am really proud of you.
Thank you.
It's really something to see it come to fruition.
We really don't. Yes.
I don't know that anybody's going to repeat this.
Can you imagine if this was just like such a big hit?
Right?
But people who like this,
mom and dad, they love sardines.
Yeah.
The mom said it's delicious and I'm trusting her, but there's a lot of things I didn't eat. Well, you know, eggs. I'm the pickiest person when it comes to food. So,
well, I was hoping that I would make 50 years without having to eat sardines. And I haven't quite made it.
Stephen
So
and
Stephen.
Mark. But Stephen, thank you so much for your guidance. And I hope that the people watching this can just like take a little leap of faith, explore the aspect of guide yourself. You can do a lot of research on it, but I wouldn't. If I were you, I wouldn't go searching up spirit guides. I wouldn't. What I would do is I would just open up your heart and go, okay, I'm willing to receive some support in my life. Debra says that we all have spirit guides. I heard those stories, and I just, in the most loving way, I would like my spirit guides to help me. Can you please help me with X, Y, Z? And then just let it go and see what kinds of things can happen. And I
love that you do that for me. You try.
I do.
I still say, no, but that's not how I live my day-to-day life. But I do try more and more. So I appreciate that you're with that with me.
You do try. And it isn't for everybody. But if you feel like you're struggling and you do feel like you want some help and support from spirit, give it a go. Okay. We didn't actually cheers them. Cheers.
Oh,
okay.
Cheers, Stephen.
Thanks. And beautiful mugs, by the way.
Thank you. I love my pottery.
Oh, I'm going to go with this small one too. Seriously?
You have to go first.
Okay. Christine, it's really good.
I feel like actually throwing up. No, thinking about
Do you like salmon?
No, I'm not a lover of it.
Okay,
I'm trying.
It's really good. And I like
I can't do it. Okay, I tried.
I got a pine cone on my nose.
They're not pine cones. They're pine nuts. This is disgusting. Do not.
No, it is. No, it's good.
No, seriously, it is good.
Yeah. No, the garlic, and I had a big chunk of the sardine. It tastes like kind of like saltier salmon.
Yeah.
No, it is.
Sorry, Stephen, but I did this for you.
No, you just don't like the idea of it.
Okay.
I think there was a woman that told you a bad story beforehand.
No, it's the note. There's knowing that there's skin and stuff on it. I can't do it.
It's a knowing. Okay. Not a flavor thing. I would eat the entire plate. So well done, Sissy.
Thank you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. And if you have any suggestions for even topics that you want to talk about spiritually, we're game.
What are your spirit questions?
What are your spirit questions?
Okay. Bye.
Bye.